Have you already given up in your heart? What is God's desire? Philippians 2:13 states, "For it is God, who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill his good purpose." This verse reveals what God's desire is. God's desire refers to the dreams, or plans that he has planted within each of us. This desire is not merely about our feelings, or ambitions. It means that God has instilled in our hearts what he wishes to achieve. The desire that God gives is focused on glorifying him and expanding his kingdom. It is fundamentally different from the personal ambitions or goals we often think of. Therefore, even though this desire may differ from our expectations, it becomes a deep, genuine longing within our souls. The attitude of faith required to fulfill our desire, to fulfill God's desire. Faith is essential. Faith is not just about professing belief in God. It involves actively moving forward to fulfill the desire that God has placed within us. When we face challenges in reality, our faith may waver, but faith involves believing that God will accomplish his work, enduring to the end, and pressing on. Faith encompasses trusting God in every area of life, and acting according to his guidance. We must approach God in prayer to fulfill the desire he has given us. The importance of aligning heart and words. We often say we believe in God with our lips, but deep within our hearts, we may have already given up. In this state, it is difficult to offer a prayer of true faith. God desires that our hearts and lips be in harmony. The confession we make with our lips must come from our hearts. Otherwise, it may be nothing more than a formal prayer. God delights in sincere prayers where the heart and lips align, and he works through such prayers. Hold on to God's desire and pray. If the desire we have is from God, we must hold on to it and pray. Prayer is not merely the act of telling God our desires, but a process of fulfilling his will. Through prayer, we receive God's guidance and come to understand his plan more clearly. Prayer allows us to realize how God's desire will be fulfilled in our lives, and gives us the strength to follow his will. God's desire will surely be fulfilled. God is the one who surely accomplishes his will. When we live according to God's desire, that desire will certainly be fulfilled. God fulfills his plan through our faith and perseverance. We must believe that God's desire will be fulfilled and move forward with unwavering faith in any situation. Persevere and press on until the end. The path of faith can be painful and requires long perseverance. However, God strengthens us through our endurance. Perseverance is not just about enduring time, but maintaining faith until God acts. We must persevere and press on until God's desire is fulfilled. Prepare yourself to fulfill God's desire. For God's desire to be fulfilled in our lives, preparation is necessary. Preparation is not just external but internal. Our hearts must be fully focused on God and ready to follow his will. God fulfills his desire through those who are prepared. Obey God's desire. The desire that God gives us is fulfilled when we obey. Obedience means laying down our will and thoughts and living according to God's will. God fulfills his desire through those who obey, and through this process, we draw closer to him. The role of community in fulfilling God's desire. Although God's desire is given to us individually, the role of the community is also important for its fulfillment. The church is the place where God's desire is fulfilled, and believers must pray for each other's desires and move forward together. We must pray together and encourage each other to fulfill the desire that God has given us. The importance of prayer in fulfilling desires. Prayer is a vital tool for fulfilling God's desire. Through prayer, we understand God's will and gain the strength to follow his plan. Prayer is a conversation with God and a means of receiving his guidance. We must consistently pray to fulfill God's desire. The joy of God's desire being fulfilled. When God's desire is fulfilled in our lives, we experience great joy. This joy is not just because our desires have been fulfilled, but because God has worked through us. When God's desire is fulfilled, we witness his glory and experience deep fellowship with him. Look beyond reality and focus on God's desire. We often forget God's desire when we are trapped in our reality. However, God's desire transcends our reality and is accomplished according to his plan. We must not be discouraged by our circumstances, but focus on God's desire and move forward. Perseverance in waiting for God's desire to be fulfilled. For God's desire to be fulfilled in our lives, perseverance is necessary. Perseverance is not just about enduring time, but maintaining faith until God acts. We must wait and persevere until God's desire is fulfilled. Treasure the desire God has given you. The desire that God has given us is precious. We must treasure that desire and trust that God will fulfill it. Treasuring the desire means respecting what God has given and preparing to fulfill His will. Spiritual preparation for fulfilling God's desire. For God's desire to be fulfilled in our lives, spiritual preparation is necessary. Spiritual preparation is achieved through prayer and the Word, and is strengthened through deep fellowship with God. We must fulfill God's desire from a spiritually prepared state. Wait until God's desire is fulfilled. We must wait until God's desire is fulfilled in our lives. Waiting is not just about passing time, but maintaining faith until God acts. We must wait and persevere until God's desire is fulfilled. The importance of community in fulfilling God's desire. Although God's desire is given to us individually, the role of the community is also important for its fulfillment. We must pray for each other and help ensure that God's desire is fulfilled. The community is a crucial tool for fulfilling God's desire. The joy of fulfilling the desire God has given. When God's desire is fulfilled in our lives, we experience great joy. This joy is not just because our desire has been fulfilled, but because God has worked through us. When God's desire is fulfilled, we witness His glory and experience deep fellowship with Him. Conclusion. Philippians 2:13 gives us great comfort and strength. The fact that God works in us to will and act according to His purpose assures us that no matter what situation we are in, God's plan does not change, and His desire will surely be fulfilled. We must hold on to God's desire and move forward with faith until the end, persevering and praying until that desire is fulfilled.